Hello students, good morning. This is a lecture of object-oriented programming using C++. In the previous lecture, we have seen detailed syllabus of object-oriented programming using C++. Also, we have seen the marking scheme, examination scheme of this subject. Also, introduction of object-oriented programming, uses of object-oriented programming, what is C++. Now, in this today's lecture, we will start our first unit, that is Principles of Object-Oriented Programming, and this unit has 14 marks. See here, learning outcome. At the end of this subpoint, that is first subpoint, you will be able to understand and explain procedure-oriented programming and object-oriented programming. Now, content. It is the first subpoint 1.1, procedure-oriented programming, that is POP, versus object-oriented programming, that is OOP. Before going to start, what is procedure-oriented programming? First, we will see that you know that a computer program is a set of instructions and that tells computer how to perform a task. Okay, so computer programming language is the language that is used to write a computer program. But to write a computer program, there are different type of approaches, like procedure oriented approach, object oriented approach, modular programming approach, structural programming approach. From that, we are going to learn procedure oriented approach and object oriented approach. So first we will see the procedure oriented programming approach. Procedure oriented programming is the traditional way of programming, where the application problem is seen as the sequence of steps, that is algorithm. This procedure oriented programming uses high level languages like C, COBOL, Fortran and Pascal. In the procedure oriented approach, the problem is viewed as sequence of things to be done, such as reading, calculating and printing. Here, in procedure oriented programming approach, it mainly focuses on the writing the programs or writing the algorithm procedures. We know that in C language, first we have to write one algorithm for the problem, and after that we are writing the instructions according to that algorithm. So we will see one example here. This is a simple program in C for the addition of two numbers. This is a procedure oriented approach. Here we will see the void main. This function controls the other functions, and our program is divided into different functions. Here, when addition function is called, our program flow transfer here. Now we already know that what is function. Function is a set of instruction grouped together to perform a particular task. So void addition is the function and this is a set of instruction. Okay, and this is grouped means this is written in the opening and closing parenthesis, and it used to execute program to perform a addition of these two numbers. After completion of this execution, it will transfer the program flow to the main program. Here we will again see the definition of function. Procedure oriented programming basically consists of writing a list of instructions for the computer to follow and organizing these instructions into groups known as function. Here the figure of typical program structure of procedure oriented programming. This is a main function which controls the execution of the other functions. Now when main program call any procedure or call to any function, then control flow transfer to that function. Suppose main function or main program calls the function 1, then control flows to the function 1. After that this function 1 has some instruction, okay, like this example. In this addition function there are some instructions. So after control flow go here, it will first execute the first statement. After completion of the first statement, the variable a, b and sum are declared. After that this scanf will work. So this is a getting the data from the user. So now user will type the value for a and value for b. After this statement will be execution, that is addition of two numbers, and lastly it will display the result. So after completion of all the instructions, the control flow transfer or return to the main program. So see here, after main function calls function 1, after executing all the instruction present in function 1, the program flow transfer to the main program. After that again main function can call function 2, function 3, okay, like that all the functions are called by using the main program. So this is a typical program structure of procedure oriented programming. We normally use flowcharts to organize these instructions and represent the flow of control from one instruction to another instruction. So procedure programming can be defined as a programming model which is derived from structured programming, and it is based upon the concept of calling procedures. So what is procedure? Also known as a routines, subroutines and function. It consists of a series of computational steps. So during program execution, any procedure or any function might be called at any point, including by other procedure or itself. Means see here, function 1 can call to function 2 also or itself also. In a multifunction program, many important data items are placed as global. Here these are the global data. What is mean by global data? It is available for all functions present in a program so that they may be accessed by all the functions. Each function may have its own local data. Here function 1 have its own local data, function 2 have its own local data. Like that all functions have its own data known as a local data. But global data is common for all. So global data are more vulnerable. Vulnerable means there is chance to bad effect on that data, means vulnerable. In a large program, it is very difficult to identify what data is used by which function. Now I am going to repeat the overview of procedure oriented programming approach. Listen. Procedure oriented programming approach is the approach which mainly focus on the writing algorithm or writing the procedure. Procedure is nothing but the function or subroutine. The large program is divided into small modules known as the function, and the main function can call any function at any time. Also the sub functions, or that is functions, can call other functions also and itself also. So the POP focuses on the writing the procedure, not on the data. And C is the best example of the procedure oriented approach. Okay, now we will see the next characteristics of procedure oriented programming. The first one, emphasis on doing things, that is writing algorithm. Procedure oriented programming, see the name procedure oriented means it is focus on the procedure, that is writing the algorithm. Second, large programs are divided into smaller programs known as function. Suppose if you want to write program using procedure oriented programming, I will repeat, large programs are divided into small programs known as function. Suppose if you want to write program in a C language, that is procedure oriented type of programming, here we divide the programs into smaller units known as the function. Suppose I want to write program for the online train booking. Okay, so there are different types of function like booking train ticket. If you want to see the schedule of the train, so for that purpose we require the schedule function. Also if you want to cancel ticket, then there is a function for the cancelling the ticket. So the large program, that is a online ticket booking, is divided into the different functions. So programming is becomes easy. Third characteristic is most of the functions share global data. As we previously see that global data is the data which is same for the all functions. Mean suppose a train number, it is a global data. So the train number data is accessed by the all functions, like cancelling the ticket function also, schedule function also, okay, and booking function also. Fourth is a data move openly around the system from function to function. Here if you want to pass some data in the form of variable, we can pass it from one function to another function. This is our fifth characteristic. Function transform data from one form to another. Okay, and last is a top down approach in the program design. So what is top down approach? In top down approach, main function is written first, okay, and after that all sub functions are called from the main function. Here in our exam, I will continue my exam, that is online ticket booking. First we will write the main function and we will write the function which are required for completion of this project. So top down approach begins with the high level design, means which functions are going to write for the completion of this project, and ends with the low level design or development. Again I will show you example, the same example. Here what is top down approach means, first we have to write the main function. In that we write the addition function, so it is a high level function, and now this is a void addition function, and it is a low level designing or development of the function. So this is a top down approach. Here it begins with the high level design, means writing the main function, and it ends with the low level designing or development, that is a addition function. Next, now we will see the advantages of procedure oriented programming language and disadvantages of procedure oriented programming language. First we will see the advantage. First, it is easy and simple to port. Okay, what is mean by port? Suppose we write the C program in one machine, and if we want to execute that C program by using the another machine or another computer, So it is very easy because compiler for procedure languages are easily available. Means suppose I write programs, C program in the Windows operating system, and if I want to execute this program on the machine has the Linux operating system, so there is no need to change in the program. It easily executed on the both the operating systems, so it is a portable. And second, procedure oriented programming is easy way of writing program. See here, if you want to solve any problem statement, first we have to write the algorithm, and following that algorithm we can write the simple instruction to execute the program. It is easy way of writing means what? First we have to take the input from the user. After that we have to perform operations on that data, and after execution or calculating that data we have to display the data to the user. So it is an easy way of writing programs in a POP. Now we will see the disadvantages of procedure oriented programming language. First one is a global data access. So we know global data is the same for the all function. So every function wants to access that global data, and because of there are number of functions, we cannot guess which function calls the global data. And suppose one function can change into the data of global, into the data of global data. So global data is a more vulnerable. Second is it does not model real world problem very well. In the procedure oriented programming, the program focuses on the procedure, not on the data. But in real world problem we have to focus on the data, because data is very important. That is a user data or resulting data. But in the POP we are not focusing on the data, so it is does not model real world problem very well. And last one is a no data hiding. So data hiding is a very good concept which is implemented in object oriented programming, but not in a procedure oriented programming. Data hiding means what? Hiding the important data from the outside world. Okay, suppose take your example, that is your bank balance, which is very important data. So bank officers not going to show your bank balance to the other person. They are hiding your data. So this is data hiding, but it is not applicable in the procedure oriented programming. So it is a disadvantage of POP. Now we will see the object oriented programming. So to overcome the limitation of POP, just we see the disadvantage of POP. Okay, to overcome that limitations, object oriented programming has been developed. Okay, so there are disadvantage of POP, that is it is no data hiding concept in this POP. So to overcome that type of disadvantages, object oriented programming is developed. Now object oriented programming not only include the base feature of the structures programming, but also include some new and powerful features which help in the development of well designed high quality softwares. Now see here, object oriented programming can be defined as a programming model which is based upon the concept of objects. Objects contain data in the form of attributes and code in the form of methods. In object-oriented programming, computer programs are designed using the concept of objects that interact with the real world. So, the main idea behind OOP language is to encapsulate both the data and function that operate on the data into a meaningful unit known as the object. So, here we can see the figure of organization of an object-oriented programming approach. Here we can see the object A, B and object C. This object A has its own data also called as attributes, and function called as a code, and this function is used to perform operation of this data. And encapsulation means what? The wrapping of data and function in a single unit called as a object. So object oriented programming is focused on the data, not on the procedure. So it is good programming approach for the real world problems. Here the object A, B, C, that is different object, can communicate with each other. In the procedure oriented programming, the large program is divided into the small modules known as the function. But in object oriented programming, large program is divided into small entity known as the object, and that object consists attributes and code, that is data and function, and that function can operate on the data. Okay, now we will see the next point, that is features of object oriented programming. First, emphasis on data rather than procedure. Okay, means object oriented programming mainly focus on the data. Data means what? The data came from the user also, and after calculating on that data we get the resultant data. So it is mostly focus on the data, not on the procedure. The second is programs are divided into what are known as objects. Here program is divided into smaller units known as the object, and that object contains the code as well as attributes. Next, data structure are designed such that they characterize the objects. Functions that operate on the data of an object are tied together, means each and every object has its own data and function. First, to create that object we have to declare class, and that class contains its own data and function. After creating the class we can create number of objects. Data is hidden and can't be accessed by the external functions. So here in the object oriented programming, data is hidden, means it not accessible for the other function. Let me see the previous diagram. Here this function can access this data. Okay, means the function of object A can operate on the data of object A. So this data of object A is hidden from the object B, and both the data of A and data B are hidden from the object C. Now, objects may communicate with each other through the function. Again, suppose object A wants to communicate with object B, it will done by using the functions. Means suppose we want to execute function from object B, the function of object A can call the functions of object B. New data and functions can be easily added in the object oriented programming. Now it follows bottom up approach in program design. So as we know, procedure oriented programming follows the top down approach, and here, which is actual opposite of the top down approach, that is bottom up approach. Means here first low level design are implemented, and after that the high level program is developed. Now we will see the advantages of object oriented programming language. The first one is reusability, means we can reuse the problem statement. Here first class is declared. Okay, in the previous lecture, that is introduction of object oriented programming, we see the class and object concept. In that, first we have to declare one class, and that class has its own data and function. After creating the class, we can create number of objects, so there is no need to write again and again for the object. We can create any number of instances of the same class. So here it is a reusability. Next one is a security. As we know, the object has its own data, that is object A has its own data and function, and only the function, that is member function of A, can access the data which is present in a object A. So security is maintained, means the function of the object A not access the data of object B. Like a global data. Global data is accessed by all the function, but in the OOP there is no concept of the global data. So security is mentioned. Third one is a easy troubleshooting. Troubleshooting means find out the problems. So everything is in the form of classes and object. So troubleshooting is also easy. Means suppose there is problem in any function, it is easily find out in the object oriented programming. Next advantage is new data can be easily created through data abstraction feature of the OOP. So new data can be easily created. In the object oriented programming, we can add function or data easily. Last is it is model the real world problem. Object oriented programming focuses on the data. It provides the security to the data. So it is good programming language for the real world problem. Now the disadvantages of object oriented programming language. Now we will see the disadvantages of object oriented programming. First one is limited to few languages. So object oriented programming is limited for the some languages, like C++ is a object oriented language, Java is a object oriented language. Okay, and second is complex design. When you are going to develop program by using the object oriented programming, it's somewhat difficult because procedure oriented approach is easy to write, easy to read, but in the object oriented programming everything is in the form of classes and object. So it is somewhat difficult to develop the program for the first time. So complex design is one of the disadvantages of object oriented programming. Here up to this we seen that what is procedure oriented programming approach, what are the characteristics of POP, what are the advantages of POP, what are the disadvantages of POP. Now what is object oriented programming approach, characteristics of object oriented programming approach, advantages of object oriented approach and disadvantage of this. Now we will going to see the difference between object oriented programming approach and procedure oriented programming approach. This distinguish contains all the overview of our today's lecture. Now here is the difference between procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. The first difference is procedure oriented programming. The program is divided into small parts called functions. Okay, and in object oriented programming the program is divided into parts called as a object. Second, importance. In the procedure oriented programming, the importance is given to the procedure, writing procedure or sequence of instruction. But in the object oriented programming, importance is given to the data. So POP, importance is not given to data but to functions as well as sequence of actions to be done, that is a procedure. And in object oriented programming, importance is given to the data rather than procedure or function because it works as a real world. Third difference is a approach. POP follows top down approach, means first main program is developed and after that sub functions are developed. In object oriented programming, it follows bottom up approach. Fourth, access specifiers. So access specifier is the new concept in the object oriented programming and we will see it in the second chapter. In the second point. Procedure oriented programming does not have any access specifier, but in object oriented programming it has access specifiers like public, private and protected. Public means accessible for all, private means accessible for the same object or class. Next difference is data moving. In procedure oriented programming, data can move freely from function to function in the system. Means one function can call to the other function and access the data of the other function. But in object oriented programming, objects can move and communicate with each other through the member functions only. Next is the expansion. To add new data and function in procedure oriented programming is not so easy because it is a sequence of instructions. So adding new data and functions is difficult in the procedure oriented programming. But object oriented programming provides an easy way to add new data and functions. For that purpose we have to create one new object, data access. In procedure oriented programming, most function uses global data for sharing that can be accessed freely from function to function in the system. Means here global data can be accessible for the all functions present in the program. In object oriented programming, data cannot move easily from function to function. It can be kept public or private. So we can control the access of data. Means if the data is declared publicly, then and then only other functions can access that data. But if data is declared privately, so other functions cannot access the data. Next difference is a data hiding. In procedure oriented programming, it does not have any proper way for hiding data, so it is less secure. Means data present in procedure oriented programming can be accessible for the all functions, so it is a less secure. Less secure means vulnerable. But in OOP it provides data hiding, so provides more security. As we know here, access specifiers mean we can provide access specifier, so we can limit the access control. Next is the overloading. In procedure oriented programming, overloading is not possible. Okay, and in object oriented programming, overloading is possible in the form of function overloading and operator overloading, and these concepts we will see in the polymorphism chapter. And last, examples. The procedure oriented programming languages are C, VB, Fortran and Pascal. From that we already see the C programming. It is also a procedure oriented programming, and example of object oriented programming are C++, Java, VB.NET, C#.NET. So these are the difference between procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. Here our first sub point is completed. Okay, see here, what is the learning outcome? After completion of this point, you will be able to understand and explain procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. Now ask yourself, can you understand the procedure oriented programming? Can you explain the procedure oriented programming? And can you explain the object oriented programming also? Okay, if it is done, then you are able to explain procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming as well as the difference between the both. So in the next lecture we will see the second subpoint.